My girlfriend's best friend threw me down the stairs and manipulated her into breaking up with me. He then tried to burn my house down and assaulted me, so I got him imprisoned. I was discharged from special forces after a mortar shell injured my leg and back. At home, I reconnected with my high school sweetheart. I was at her place one night when I woke up to someone climbing the stairs. I got up and pulled out my shotgun and, in response, the guy screamed my girlfriend's name. Turns out he was her brother. Well, he wasn't actually her brother, just a junkie who'd worked with her years ago and once got a cheeseburger from her to help his come down. He began pleading with her, saying he was evicted and needed a place to stay. Because this was her house, I had no say, and she agreed to house him. He was extremely disrespectful toward her during this time. He demanded she cook for him, do his laundry, and buy him groceries. One fateful night, he demanded I wash his dishes for him. I told him to screw off and turned around to walk downstairs and out of the apartment. I was a few steps down when the door behind me flew open. He ran at me and pushed me down. I landed on my back and hit my head on the concrete. He jumped on top of me and I fought back. I grit through and got on top of him, then started wailing blows. I honestly didn't care if I unalived him. Someone had to die and it wouldn't be me. But then my girlfriend saved his life. She heard the yelling downstairs, came running, and found me on top, raining blows on him over and over. She screamed for me to get off and I did. As soon as I did, his mouth started running. Sister, he threatened to unalive me. He attacked me and threw me down the stairs because I asked him to bring back the PS3. I honestly thought she might believe him for a moment, but thankfully she knew those were lies. The neighbor's security camera outside backed that up. That morning, I took her to work and took her 3-year-old daughter to daycare. One thing I should mention. My girlfriend had a 3-year-old daughter whose dad wasn't in the picture, and she was the sweetest, most adorable little girl ever. After I took her to school, I went to work. I had to explain to my boss why I had bloody knuckles and why I was holding a cold pack to the back of my head. They offered to call the police so I could press charges. I told them no. My boss practically ordered me to call the police or he'd put me on medical leave. I replied that I'd rather be on med leave than lose my girlfriend for calling the cops on her brother. It was made clear to me, under no uncertain terms, that I was a particularly stupid kind of a hole and it would come back to bite me someday. Well, he was right. Basically, the brother gave her an ultimatum. Either I leave and she dumps me, or he leaves and walks out of her and her daughter's life. To be fair to my ex, that loser had been the only constant male figure in her kid's life since she was born, so that would have been devastating for the gremlin, and she wanted to spare her that kind of pain. And so I got the axe. Honestly, I'd have rather taken an actual axe to the heart, because what I felt was worse. It's one thing to say goodbye to the woman you love, but to also say goodbye to a sobbing little kid you wanted so much in your heart to adopt and make your own? I don't want to meet the man who can hold back tears from that. That man scares me. I went back to my apartment, put together a little box with toys and keepsakes and clothing items they'd left behind, and waited for the right time to bring it by her work. I was a broken man, but that little jerk wanted to kick me while I was down. He'd mentioned a while ago that he had friends who would kick my butt if they got the chance, and I always thought he was bluffing. He wasn't. He did have some friends with rap sheets and bad intentions, and in the months that followed our breakup he put them to work. I woke up one morning to discover my car had been blocked up, the wheels taken off, and spray paint all over it after they'd busted out the windows. What my insurance didn't cover cost me $2,500 in repairs. Police were called, a report made. Surveillance footage was useless. Faces covered, gloves on, no prints. They're not rolling out CSI to collect hair follicles off a deck for auto vandalism. 2 weeks later, there was an attempted arson at my front door. Someone wearing a mask and a hoodie lit a Molotov cocktail and threw it at my welcome mat. If it weren't for the apartment's fire sprinklers, my place would have burned down with me in it, because I wasn't jumping from the 3rd floor balcony. That was a more serious crime. Cops were very interested. But again, no usable prints, face covered, etc. Then it was quiet for a month. My ex reached out when she heard about the fire, and I told her I knew it was her brother, but I didn't have proof. She said she'd say something to him, and, coincidentally, nothing happened for a while. Eventually, Cops came around asking to talk to him. Obviously, I'd given his name as a person of interest. In the month and change since our spat, she'd basically forced him to find some kind of work or she'd kick him out. He'd gotten a part-time gig at an auto shop in town that had a reputation for cutting corners. Perfect job for the weasel, until the cops came looking for him about the fire. The owners didn't like police sniffing around their employees, so since he'd only been there a week or two, he got the boot. He deeply appreciated that. One night I got home from work after a gym stop and a quick bite from the grocery store. I pulled into my spot in my Enterprise rental. My car was still in the shop, and walked into my apartment. While I was over 21, legally owned guns, and had a concealed carry permit, on days I was on base I did not carry a pistol. It's incredibly rare for anyone whose explicit job description doesn't include carry a pistol at all times to be allowed to carry on base. I wasn't leaving a pistol in my car, and there weren't places to securely store a weapon while working, so I just opted not to take my gun. It's also why I didn't have a pistol on me the morning the brother jumped me. I was unarmed. I lived on the 3rd floor. There was a 4th floor above me and stairs leading to it. I heard footsteps coming down fast and turned to see 4 guys in hoods, masks, and gloves rushing me. My door was open, so I dropped my groceries and tried to slam it. They got a foot in and wedged through. What followed took about 14 seconds. The neighbor across the way after the fire had installed a security cam outside their door, so we know the timestamps to the second. I kept a loaded pistol tucked in a closet near my front door. Irresponsible, I know, but I was younger and more naive. In the scuffle with the first guy through the door, I managed to reach into the closet, find the gun, and push myself back to gain several feet of space. I remember vividly seeing all 4 men in my doorway and hallway, the first guy I just pushed having been body blocked from falling, starting to come at me again. I raised my pistol, a SIG P226 chambered in .40 S&W, and just as I heard one of them shout, "Gun!" I lined up shots and pulled the trigger. There were no limb shots, no warning shots. I did as I'd been trained, body, head. The first guy went down. The second guy caught 2 through-and-throughs from the first guy before I plugged him in the forehead. The third guy stopped dead in his tracks before catching for center of mass. The fourth guy was halfway out the door before I emptied the rest of my magazine into him through friend number 3 and whatever I could see to aim at. Unfortunately for him, the a-hole lived, which meant I couldn't be charged in the most serious way possible for it. However, the first 3 recipients of my high-velocity sleeping pills didn't live. The first guy's insides were all over the second guy. The second guys were all over my wall. They were pronounced dead on the scene. The fourth guy, the one who lived, was my ex's brother. Of the 3 bullets that connected, 1 grazed his butt, another lodged in his right cheek, and the third hit him square in the spinal cord around the kidney area. It shattered his spine and ended his career. He was paralyzed from the navel down, had to use a permanent catheter and a diaper. He'd never walk again. He'd never sleep with anyone again. When he was healthy enough to be discharged from the hospital, he was locked up in prison. He caught multiple charges, since he'd orchestrated the attack where his 3 buddies got unalived, plus conspiracy and assault. He even got reckless endangerment charges tied to my discharging a firearm in an apartment complex with another unit across the hall from the open door. He was never going to breathe free air again. I'd like to say this ended happily ever after, that she took me back, we got married, I adopted her little one, and we had a couple spares of our own. She didn't. Within 24 hours she declared she was scared of me, didn't want me near her or her child, and would call the police if she ever saw me near her home or workplace, which sucked. I liked the target she worked at. She called me every name under the sun, accused me of sicking the cops on him to provoke a response just so I could shoot him. She ignored the arson, the vandalism, the threats he'd thrown at me in the previous months. I never saw her again. She blocked me on everything. Her family blocked me. She changed her number, transferred to a different target, and moved to a different part of town. It's been 8 years and I still haven't heard from her. I know she's alive. Friends of friends said she got married in 2020, had a second kid, and is happy. More power to her. I never got my happy ending, my white picket fence. Believe it or not, unaliving 3 guys, even for a person trained for war and conditioned for the possibility he might have to do it, messes with your head, especially when it happens in your home and not in Baghdad. There's a huge mental and emotional disconnect between doing it for work and doing it because your life was in danger. I had PTSD. I couldn't touch any of my guns once I got them back for a full year without having panic attacks. The Navy was great about it. They aided with the investigation, including that CO who called me the Apex Donut. Giving his statement about the morning I got jumped, I was offered the chance to live on base with protective detail until things cooled down. I declined. 8 years later, I've retired. I'm working in the private sector with my own LLC, making great money doing cybersecurity and site security consulting. Occasionally, I go boating. My partner of 3 years is the most loving, supportive person I've ever been with. I know they have my back no matter who tries to unalive me. We're talking about having kids before we get too much older. Life's good. But you know what really warmed my heart? Just the other day, a Google alert I set up 8 years ago triggered. It was the brother's first and last name followed by the word obituary. Turns out someone in prison got sick and tired of the annoying guy in a wheelchair talking so much crap and flexing on people, believing nobody would hit someone in a wheelchair. They used his wheelchair to unalive him and their shoes to finish him off with a few good stomps. Of course, the obituary didn't say that. It said he was a bright and lovable lad, when he was young who fell on hard times in early adulthood and landed in prison. The real surprise. Apparently he is survived by a daughter none of us knew he had back then. That sucks for her, but I doubt she ever got a chance to know him anyway. Honestly, that's for the best.